ダメだねダメよダメなのよあんたが好きで好きすぎてどれだけ強いお酒でも歪まない思い出が別れた
You just won't fit in.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to SVNP's live news coverage of the election. I'm your host, Pope Francis, and former PM candidate as well. I'd just like to say to everybody who has joined our stream and watching, thank you for watching. SVNP is proud to produce this type of high-level content for all of you. So once again, thank you. Today, me and other people who are political correspondents are here today to talk more about the current prime minister elections. Today, we'll start off with discussing the chances of Shub's winning. We will also start to talk about the new Vooperia Party's rush to get a new candidate on the board. Thank you for watching. We will have a quick ad break before we begin. Does that mean go? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to SVMP. I am your host, Pope Francis. Today, we are here with some of my comrades to discuss more on the subject. Here today, we have LJL and Ethosine.
Hello.
Say hello, friends.
Hello.
So, a lot has been happening, especially with the prime minister elections and the drama that has been behind it. What do you guys think of the election, and how do you think it will change the community?
Yeah, well,
Uh,
would you like to go first, LJ?
no, I was wondering if we're gonna do an order for this, or we're just gonna.
We can start with Etho and then go to
Yeah.
LJN.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, for starters, it's definitely something new that we are putting it to a Senate vote as opposed to a public vote across the entire nation of Vooperia. It's definitely an interesting way to go about it. It's technically an indirect vote from the people, since you have your representatives going about and doing it. While I disagree with that system myself, I think so long as we have a method in which we're doing it that involves some form of democracy,
hmm
overall it's a pretty good idea. But it's definitely something interesting to see how the landscape has changed, especially after you recently
Yeah,
got
I was.
removed
Yeah.
from the election. You got barred from it due to the recent
Scandal.
events that occurred. Yeah, it's quite a few.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a bit of a visitor on the left over there. Yeah.
Oh, hello, wizard.
Yeah, but
Wizard's slowly making his way up.
no,
Let's
but
take a- yeah, go on.
yeah, really though, I think it's definitely going to be an interesting election. It's going to do a lot for making sure that we can get the Senate back on track. But whatever happens, happens. It's really up to the Senate at this point. I feel like our main two contenders are going to be Shub and Surge, but you never know now that the NVP finally got their candidate in. It's definitely going to shake things up a bit.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and especially the fact that we have now, before we only had two potential candidates, which really was, sorry, three, which really was Shub, Surge, and Danish. Danish running as an independent, Shub running as Dolphin Party, and Surge running under I think it's the Liberty Party, or is it the Freedom Party?
It would be it's weird. It's both.
Yeah,
We put members between. We switch every once in a while.
yeah.
They're more technocratic. We're more of a lib-right sort of party, but we tend to overlap a lot.
Yeah, I that makes sense. LJ, what is your thoughts on the election from your perspective?
Well, I mean, I haven't been here for too long because I got banned for. I don't even remember why I got banned. Anyway, so as from my point of view, the election is going interestingly because, well, the whole case that happened, we were all sort of involved. We were all involved in that. So that's definitely changed it a bunch. Like, if you were running at least I would assume that the entire election would be pretty much wholly different.
Oh yeah, it would be completely changed. We would have a candidate who has strong backing, but the Supreme Court case obviously has taken that out.
I think Jacob, while being a fine candidate, wasn't exactly the best choice for the NVP. BMK might have probably been better, but I don't know if I know he said he might want to leave, so I understand why he wasn't picked.
Yeah. Also, I think reports from the NVP indicate that we actually had a primary, and BMK did not win the primary. So
Okay.
it was Jacob who had won by a landslide. And in my personal opinion, I think that Jacob is a very strong candidate. He runs the most successful Vuperian tech company so far. He's active. He's everything we need a prime minister to be. He's smart. He's witty. He's always trying to make a change for the better. He's just a good candidate in my opinion. Etho, that's actually a great question for the next one. What is your thoughts on the new Vuperian Party candidate?
Well, so here's the thing. Jacob, he falls just 2 months short of the 6-month qualification to run, which makes it an interesting case to say the least. I ran against him in my own district. He has a very strong following among the less active members of the district. But it did come to a time that that obviously kind of ties into some legal issues that eventually arose that both you and I were involved in.
Yeah.
But I feel like while he is going to probably have a little bit of a pull as the new Vuperian candidate, the current divides that we've been seeing in the new Vuperian party might suggest that he won't really get much traction among any other of the Senate members.
That's a very interesting perspective you take on the new Vuperian Party candidate. LJ, what do you think about him? What do you think his stances are and why they matter, especially to senators?
Well, like I said earlier, he's a fine candidate, and it's not. I wouldn't say there's anything bad about him, other than he's a dirty new Vuperian. No, just kidding. Obviously, it's not like hatred of parties is a whole entire thing that's been going around. But
Yeah,
yeah, I don't
definitely
know.
not.
Yeah, he seems to have fairly, basic policies. Just, I don't know. I wouldn't say anything is going to change very much if he's elected. Well, honestly, if anyone's elected, the PM candidate really is more of a Speaker of the House than some executive, but I understand why it's also important to have them.
Well, it's really dependent on the person that ends up getting the position. Personally, in my experience with seeing Jacob and his performance, he lacks much of an original policy base. It's kind of just continuous regurgitation of pre-existing policy proposals. And I mean, in the end, I just feel like while he has proposed some good stuff for my own district, it's really nothing new. It's just been pre-proposed
But
policies.
Etho, you have to realize that Jacob is a candidate who is very good at changing himself and his policy to fit the current situation, meaning that Vooperia will never ever have to have a candidate who's just gonna say in a time of crisis, oh well, I'm gonna follow my method because quote it works, even though it may not work. He's a candidate who can change based on the current situation, and that's something I think is very, very important in a candidate.
But you see, being dynamic, that's important. You want to be a dynamic candidate, but he's not dynamic in the right way. Like, it's important for someone when they're running on a platform to have portions of their platform that they themselves have come up with, and it shows the
Yeah.
voters that they are a strong candidate. Unfortunately, while he is very good at putting into action some of the policies he proposes, just not a lot of them really are effectively his per se.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for that very, very insightful insight into what you think about that. Now, LJ, what do you think is Jacob's strongest, his strongest, God, I can't think of the word, his strongest suit or his strongest strength?
Quality.
And yeah, exactly. What is his strongest quality and his least strongest quality?
Well, he's not like the largest person in the political sphere, which I think is actually a good thing.
Yeah.
It means they'll be less entirely tied to a party, at least, hopefully. Yeah. But yeah, a smaller person, they'll be less important in the community. Their decisions, they'll be probably, hopefully at least, more free to make good decisions rather than following the party line or doing
Yeah.
anything like that. There seems to be someone coming through. Oh, it's Maximus Stone. Yes, our studio seems to be being invaded.
We are being invaded. All right. I have another topic that we should be discussing. Now, there is a big chance that we will not figure out who actually wins till the very, very end of the election, considering the fact that we have 15 senators and some aren't active. So I think that it's important to ask this question. Who do you predict will win and why? Starting with LJ.
Well, who do I predict will win? Just by votes, like the current votes at least. Well, as far as I can tell, it's going to be between Jacob and Shub. One
Yeah.
of the two. The other two candidates, while they are fine, I think Danish running as an independent is interesting at least.
Yeah.
And Surge is, just an overall decent candidate or good candidate even. He worked with me on that case that we that we were pulling earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And at least I think that shows how adequate he is.
Oh,
Anyway, Ethan seems to have gone.
Etho has seemed
I'm
to have
doing
gone
some
into the invisible realm.
making sure. I need to probably lock a couple doors. There's
Yeah,
some.
that's
Okay,
probably a good idea.
Could we have some silence for a second? We have a question from someone, I believe. Go ahead, Luca. Ah. Okay, so we're good now? Alright, wait, what? I'm confused. What's happening? Oh. Well, yeah, he can join. Alright, Etho, just tell me when you're done. Also, Luca, if you could, can we time that better next time before just ending it? Next time before just ending it, please tell me, and I can announce that we're gonna run ads.
Oh, Luca, you're probably not able to be heard because your microphone input to whatever, probably Streamlabs. Are you
OBS.
using Streamlabs or OBS or whatever? Yeah, your microphone input's probably just bad on that. You're gonna have to add an input if you wanna be heard. Okay. Yeah.
Coolio does not have his mic, so, and he's not in Minecraft, so.
Yes, I do.
Oh, you do have your mic? All right, outstanding. All right, just tell me when you're meeting us. Say go. Welcome back to SVMP election coverage. I'm your host, Pope Francis. We have another member to join our debate council, Coolio, the senator from Vooperia. Welcome.
Hi.
Great. I was going to ask some questions. We started with LJ, which was who do you predict will win the election and why? So I'm going to switch over and ask Etho now. Who do you predict will win the election and why?
I'm gonna say probably Shub has it in the bag. His strong voter base among the Senate, along with just general support for him as a non-New Vuperian Party candidate, he has the sway in the Senate to be able to obtain
Interesting.
that position.
Very interesting. Coolio, as our new member of this debate council, I'm going to ask you a question. Who do you predict will win the election and why?
I have no idea.
It's meant to more be of a prediction, but
I don't know.
okay. Interesting feedback from Coolio.
Well, we can throw out the question: who do you want to win the election, and why?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good question, actually. We can start with Coolio for that one. Hello, Coolio?
You alive over there?
Coolio, are you live? Well, we will be moving on to Etho then. Etho, go ahead and answer that question if you want.
Could you repeat the question again? I'm sorry.
Who do you
Sure.
want to win the election? What?
Personally, I prefer Surge as a candidate to win the election. However, I would not be upset with a possible Shub victory, either of which I believe would do excellently within the position. While Surge definitely does follow my vision for a political future in Vooperia, I believe that Shub would be dedicated enough to ensure that nothing, potentially harmful would occur within the Senate legislatively. So he's overall probably the best option that we have if Surge does not win, which is unfortunately very likely.
Thank you for your input, Etho. I guess I'll go to LJ then. Who do you want to win and why?
Well, personally, I would want Shub to win just because, I
Yeah.
as my personal choice, I just like Shub. It's not really as a he's better than anyone. Well, I mean, he is, in my opinion, better, but it's more that everyone else I don't like as much. Like Jacob, like I said, adequate candidate, just sort of dry policies. Surge is, like again, like I said, he's fine. I have no qualms with him. It's just I would personally prefer Shub as party politics, along with the fact that he's just I don't know, in my opinion, a good candidate. He has experience. He seems to know what he's doing at least.
Very interesting. Well, thank you for your input on that matter. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. We will be back after a short break.
Long ago, there was no one. Then one day Wizard woke up at 3 in the afternoon. He saw the chaos and went back to bed. So now me and my people must work together to bring him back. He may seem lazy and may lack talent. So if you want someone who will spark joy and bring maybe freedom, vote Wizard. He doesn't do much. This ad was paid by Wizard's fan group.
You just won't fit in. Gonna make you cry. Say goodbye.
ダメだねダメよダメなのよあんたが好きで好きすぎてどれだけ強いお酒でも歪めない思い出が別れた
Thank
Welcome back to SVMP. I'm your host, Pope Francis. Today, we have more election coverage coming up. Here, we have Koka, who has just joined our council to talk further on the subject.
Hello.
Now, we have Etho to talk more about his plan and what he wants to say.
Well, during the break time, there was a particularly concerning point that was raised to me, which I believe deserves a bit of exposition. So, given the current status of the vote at a tie, um, obviously any sort of election tie is to be broken by the Emperor through Vooperian legal code. However, what I'd noticed is since this comes to a Senate vote, Spike already votes. So, hypothetically, if this were to come to a any sort of a tie, Spike would get a double vote, which you know, I'm not saying anything specific here, but I just believe that that observation in specific is definitely something that should be considered when looking at the state of the election
Interesting.
and considering exactly how we would proceed with the election if it were to come to a tie. Hypothetically, that would be a double vote, which I'm not saying it would be good or bad, but I think that's important to note.
With that, I mean that makes sense to me, and I think that in the event that Jacob and Shub are tied, Spike will have the deciding vote, and that is something that we cannot change, and that's something that is either going to hurt us or benefit us.
Well, if I may
Yeah, go ahead.
interject, Spike having 2 votes probably counters the idea of this being a democratic process. Oh, someone's lockpicking because
I'm
of course
totally
they are.
on that. With our current predictions, it is going to be a tie. Since Serge and Ronald have not voted, we can predict their votes, and with those predictions, we can assume it's going to be a tie, unless
I
anybody.
don't think it will be a tie though. I don't think it will be a tie though, because you forget that this is ranked choice voting and not regular first past the post. So whoever gets that vote, they will end up winning.
Yes, this is true, and I've already done the maths. It's on a public sheet. It currently doesn't include Spike since I didn't actually think he could vote because of the issue Etho mentioned.
Yeah, can you deal with that?
I got it.
There. Cool. Okay, someone's lockpicking down there. It's very loud.
I don't know where it is, but it's
Sounds like Vikos is doing it, or someone might be crouching to do it. Maybe I can't tell.
All right.
Well, Popax.
Popax flushed. All right, I've also put barrier blocks in front, so that should not happen. All right, guys, we are back, and I'm going to be asking some questions. Starting with Koka, what do you think is the most influential factor in this whole election?
It's the I think most influential factor is MVP and its internal affairs. As far as we know, there's currently a lot of instability in it, and as Coolio talked about how there's been a lot of like internal problems, and like people like Snarf who are changing their votes a lot, and they're changing them a lot. It was Shub at the first votes, and then they changed it to Super Jacob, and it's very, and if they changed again, it might be different. Could be a whole different story.
All good. That makes perfect sense. LJ, what do you think is the single most influential factor in this whole election?
Well, like Koka said, it's still probably just political parties in general, really. Our Senate is so partisan, like most Senates. This is why I like Cuba. But anyway, yeah, it really does come down to factors, not factors. Come down to party factors.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, that's really all I have to say about it. Like the parties have so much influence on our
Very true.
yeah,
Very true.
Politics.
I know this is a completely separate subject, but what is all of your opinions on VTech? And I guess we'll start with Coolio. Coolio?
Is Coolio alive?
I'm pretty sure Coolio
Off
is
type
like not
Coolio.
here right now.
Okay. I guess we'll go to
Alright.
Ether then.
Okay, so VTech, they have definitely a couple products, especially Sputter, which have really been a sensation recently, and definitely has benefited them in terms of their financial standings and how promising they would be to investors. Really, in the end, I think that as a company, I believe that it's definitely a very profitable business model.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, well, actually, fortunately for them, but unfortunately for some people who might want to get in, they hold a bit of a monopoly right now, especially on the tech industry. Really haven't seen much of a driving force to compete against them, which is outstanding for Super Jacob. But that lack of market variety may cause some issues with price gouging possibly in the future, which may be concerning, but really in the end, it's just a matter of someone finding the right idea to compete in the market with VTech. And I say at that point, we just let the market do its thing, and I'm sure that the
Let the
market will
best product
decide.
win.
It's
Uh-huh.
not a
You don't
monopoly.
Totally
you
not
don't
a
How
have
is it?
to
monopoly.
announce you don't have to announce it like
100% not a monopoly.
Well,
All
how
right.
is it not a monopoly if it isn't competing with anyone in that
You can carry
industry?
on.
but
I
That is
don't know.
the
in his defense,
definition.
Etho, in his defense, there is no other company so far that has proven that they can supply a
Well, I'm
product.
I'm not saying it's a bad
not
thing.
there's
I'm
no
just
other company that can
mentioning.
it's not
It's
that
a
there's no other company that can't supply a product. It's more that there's no other company, just in general.
Yeah,
No one else
there's
tries
no
to
other
compete with
company,
VTech.
which
just
would
like
technically still be a monopoly, but it's not like he's crushing other businesses. The
Yeah.
second that there's
Yes,
another
that's
company that
antitrust.
enters that area, then obviously, of course, the monopoly would be broken. But
That makes
you know,
sense. But like I said, in the Senate, and I know a lot of other people who are in the Senate will be open to some antitrust laws and potentially some maybe anti-monopoly laws to prevent that. But I think it's important that companies who make a product that is deserving of a patent should not have to feel threatened by someone else taking their product and stealing it and copying it. And that's why I slightly worry about, like, for example, in the United States, the way they have their patent system set up is that you do not patent the product itself. You patent the way you make the product. And so I think we should change our patenting six our patent our patenting
Patent.
system. Oh
patenting,
my god.
yeah.
Our patenting
Put
system
fancy
from a
code
system where it's based upon, an idea, where it should be based upon how you're going to make that idea happen rather than the idea itself. Does that make sense?
That's a very
Makes
interesting way to look at it.
yeah.
But when I look at VTech, I see a thriving company, but
Mm-hmm.
that has no competition. It's a natural monopoly. And the thing about that is, I don't want patents to be holding down people who want to compete with the monopoly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Go
I
on.
just feel like 6 months is a little bit absurd for patents.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. That makes sense.
I think patents
LJ,
in general.
or sorry, Coolio, go ahead.
Honestly, I think patents in general, they just monopolize a certain business. That makes it so no other business can compete with them unless they do something about that patent.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
That makes sense to me. LJ, what do you think?
On VTech or on patent law?
On both, but mostly patent law.
Okay, well, on VTech, I'm gonna just agree with Etho there. It's pretty much just a natural monopoly. On patent law, well, I don't know. Intellectual property is an interesting component of a market,
Yeah.
but patents in general, I do think we should transfer over to, or stay on. I don't really. I'm not going to pretend to understand the inner workings of our current patent system, but I'm going to say I actually do agree with you that they should be transferred to you patent how you make something rather than what it is. But yeah, it really depends on how we're gonna operate. Is there someone behind us still? No, it's just KK.
Quick question: If this
Mhm.
was with if this was like how would you do this with coding?
Could you talk more on that point? I'm a little confused.
So if someone wants to program something,
Uh-huh.
how would you be able to explain how you made it?
You can explain the structure in which you used, like, blah blah server blah. I don't code, but like, I go to the server and server gets the data from here and it takes it from the user. It sells it here and it does this or whatever the company does. It explains the process for it rather than the product itself. Because right now, most of the patents that we see are, just explaining the product itself, which it should not. It should be explaining how they do the product, because there should be other competing products, for the same idea, but you don't want to patent an idea, you want to patent a product, if that makes sense.
He's in a boat.
Yes, KK is distracting.
To come back to the Spike tie thing that Eva went about, Spike gets to vote before there is a tie, but if there is a tie, then his vote applies.
That makes sense. How do you guys actually feel about that system, starting with Coca? How do you feel about Spike having a immediate tie-breaking vote?
I mean, it's his community, and to be honest, I kind of agree with it. If that's his vision, that he should have a right to say it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I agree completely. LJ, what do you think?
I mean, I think we should completely restructure our system, but that's a topic for another time.
Mhm.
I don't know. It really does depend. I agree sort of with it's his community, but it's also his community to for other people to participate in. That's the sort of whole. If he is tyrannical about it, no one's gonna want to participate. I guess is my point.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But that this system isn't authoritative.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I'm
Yeah.
be able to
yeah.
pre-votes for attack.
I'm
Yeah,
very
yeah.
highly interested in what Coolio thinks on this subject, if Coolio is still alive.
I'm here.
Okay.
Hi, Coolio.
Hi, Coolio. What do you think about Spike having the ability to have a tie-breaking vote?
I can't really comment on this, honestly, because I literally got my Senate seat through Spike doing the tie-breaking vote. If I say anything about it, I'll sound hypocritical.
Mm-hmm. All right. Etho, you can speak on the subject if you wish.
Yeah, definitely. One of the major things that I definitely ran on when I was running in New Vooperis, and definitely one of the things that I'm focusing on a lot in my current
Can't really
ground up reform manifesto that I'm writing leading up to the next election cycle is really just an evaluation of the amount of power that's entrusted to the emperor and how concerning that is for the functioning of a proper democracy. As a democratic nation, we need to make sure that we are keeping power in the hands of the people and that we allow the people to be self-determining in how they wish to be governed. And some of the imperial powers, especially the imperial veto and the way that this imperial tiebreak works in giving the emperor more of a say than other members elected into the Senate, it's generally concerning. Our Constitution says outright that there is no such thing as a individual who is more valuable in any sense than the other. We're all individuals in the end, and that should value us out all the same on the same scale. We shouldn't be evaluated as different people based on our authority. We're all people who work to govern ourselves. We are a government that is supposed to be run for Vooperians by Vooperians. That is the central core idea of our democracy, and we need to ensure that our government functions that way. And it's really concerning to me that we have certain systems in place which directly contradict that idea. We really need to ensure that while we do have a monarch, while we have our emperor, we need to ensure that the emperor does not completely domineer the system of democracy which governs our people. We need to ensure that there are certain limitations put on the power of the emperor to ensure that people are properly represented by their elected officials and not just by the whim of our emperor.
That makes perfect sense. I'd just like to ask all of you one more time. Which party do you think has the most influence? We'll go from right to left.
Wait.
That's
You're
Etho.
Etho first, or
Yes.
Well, with the slowly crumbling state of the NVP, I think that the Dolphin Party will emerge as the most influential party within the Senate. I think that, especially after the proceedings against you, Pope, there was definitely a weakening in the stance of the New Vooperia Party, and given the amount of Dolphin Party members which currently sit in a position of government, and especially the likelihood that Shub will win the prime minister position, I think that the Dolphin Party is really going to take over that domineering majority in the Senate that the New Vooperia Party used to have. But it's really just a matter of what happens in the end. Whoever wins the prime minister election gains a lot of influence and authority within the Senate, and it's really just a matter, once we see who wins that, to see where we go from there.
All right, that makes sense. LJ, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah. I mean, I have to agree with Etho. It really does depend on the the PM elections. But I honestly, I'd say at the moment right now, NVP is probably still the most influential of the parties, just because of how large they are. Like, so a lot of the, I don't know, different. I'm not gonna call them by like left right standards of normal politics, because it really isn't that. But a lot of the different parties are either smaller or fractured. Like, I don't know. Anyway, yeah. Honestly, I don't have that much to say about it. I'd say that NVP is currently in power, but I would also agree with Etho. The PM elections are definitely going to change this. Like, who is in power.
Matt makes total sense. I agree with you completely, LJ.
I would have to disagree with both sides of this argument. Neither NVP or the Dolphin Party were most strongest party. The most strongest party is the independents. Because currently, I don't think any of them are going to join. Oh, Spike's in the background. I don't think any of them are gonna join either NVP or DP. That because most of them don't actually agree with both sides. They either hate
Oh,
NDP or
Spike's.
an NVP, or they hate, or they don't like, or they just
Oh,
are neutral.
he's here.
Yeah, it was. Oh, and he's here. Okay.
Hi, Spike.
Howdy.
Well, thank you, Coca. I'm gonna end this here. Thank you all for watching the SVMP live Prime Minister election political coverage, and thank you to the Debate Council, all of you, for participating. If you are
No
interested
problem.
in purchasing an ad for the next SVMP live stream, please contact Luca or me. Once again, thank you all for watching. This has been election coverage live on
Wait, hold
SVMP.
on. Wait. Spike has something to say.
Oh.
He wants to be
Oh.
in it.
Spike wants to
Oh.
be in it.
Wow.
Well,
Ban
I mean,
Spike, TBH,
we
TBH.
can.
Let's ban Spike before
Okay.
he wants to see
Spike,
anything.
just Spike, I will DM you a link. Go ahead and click on that link. I just sent you a link on Discord. That is the link to join the voice chat. Sorry for that, guys. I thought we were going to end, but
Yeah.
While we have a
Oh.
second, fun fact: this is currently being held from Synthesi Tower, future home of several luxury apartments with an excellent view of the Spawn Star and the Vuperian Senate building. So, if you're interested in having an apartment in here, don't hesitate to give me a DM.
perfect. Well, it looks like Spike Viper has arrived.
Oh,
Welcome,
he's muted.
Spike.
You have to unmute him.
Welcome, Spike.
I'm assuming I was invited and I was just a meme and didn't notice. Oh, God. Oh, wait. I need to get in front of the camera. This is such an awesome setup.
Thank you.
Honestly.
Thanks.
Hi.
Thank you to
Sorry.
Etho.
It's
I'm glad
Etho's
you like the
amazing.
building.
How's it going, Etho? I haven't seen
Going
you in a
great.
while. How's
Yeah.
it going, Poe?
It's going all right. Yeah, we're just
Hello.
chilling.
Hello.
There's that weirdo in the corner over there. Hi, LJ. You're pretty cool too.
Hello.
Oh,
Yeah,
Well,
alright.
Coca the cookie, because
we have our
You-
full council here. So welcome, Spike. He is obviously, if you don't know him, you probably know who he is. He's the Emperor. He is pretty epic, and he's here to talk. So what was funny, that was supposed to be my end. So I don't know what else to ask.
Well, I know a bit about politics in Vooperia. You should like ask me
All right.
questions because
Okay,
I almost
so-
know a little bit about it.
All right, let's go back to our question we were asking finally. What do you think about the Emperor's power to be the tie-breaking vote?
So the current situation with that is actually the result of a mistake we made when we formed the government. So technically, the PM was supposed to be elected from the general public, which meant that there were 17 people who could vote, which obviously is an odd number. And the odd number obviously results in there never being a tie. But what happened is when we, for the sake of decreasing drama, when we rolled the vice emperor,
Mhm.
it consolidated that into 16 different votes. So with
Interesting.
16 different votes, someone has to break the tie, and I think whoever breaks the tie should be the most handsome one in the room. So it's either me or Etho. I'm not sure, but I
Wow.
think
Oh,
Why,
have
thank
you,
you.
Spike? Have you seen my face reveal yet?
yeah, I
You
did.
even
The
got
bathtub
it.
video pretty good.
Thank
You need
you.
to make a
Does
bathtub
better.
video still.
But
Yeah.
I couldn't decide me or Ethos, so then I went by whoever had the most subscribers, and that one had a clear answer. So
yes. Ah,
Yeah,
yes.
PewDiePie.
But what did you think? Was Pope hot?
you know what? If PewDiePie wanted to break the
Damn.
tie, I would allow him to.
I would allow PewDiePie to break the tie. Yes.
I would let that happen. That's
Yeah.
fine.
But what, Spike? What are your thoughts on the current election that's happening and the political situation surrounding it and the new Vooperia Party candidate?
Well, so obviously Jacob was kind of, nobody expected Jacob to run, but I actually think this may have turned out really well for the NVP party. It showed that they are able to adapt quickly, and there was actually a kind of backup plan. I think we were all kind of expecting that, unfortunately, Pope was not going to be able to run. And we were hoping the Supreme Court would side with us and allow us to run Jacob, because clearly he has a high amount of investment. He has a massive technical skill, which is honestly extremely helpful when it comes to someone being, especially prime minister. If it's someone who can help me out with code and things like sputter and stuff, that is just a massive benefit. And on top of that, Jacob is a pretty nice guy, and I don't think anyone hates him. I think he's one of the least controversial figures in our politics. He has zero scandals. He has no enemies, so I feel like he would be able to unite the political spectrum. I actually kind of feel a little bit the same way about Danish, actually. So Danish was actually my second pick.
Me as
because
well.
I feel like Danish has no drama surrounding him at the same time. So my endorsement definitely is going to go to Jacob, just because he realistically has so much capability to push the government into the future and our technology. I would really be looking forward to having someone else who can program. Obviously, Hunk just came back, so we'll see about that. But I don't think Hunk is going to get prime minister. So
Yeah.
you know.
Would anybody here on the debate council like to comment on Spike's latest? I'm going to leave this for open debate. So.
You didn't really finish the question. What was the question?
Oh, my question was, what do you think of the current political situation and the new Vooperia Party candidate, which he answered pretty well.
I mean, I left my thoughts a little bit earlier on Jacob as a political figure, but I mean, if he wins, I do believe that I think it would be very much along the lines of a Joe Biden presidency, in saying that we'd be seeing nothing bad happen, but nothing really generally happening.
Oh, Etho, you can't do my man like that. Did you just compare him to Joe Biden?
You
Come
just
on.
compared Super
He's a
Jacob,
very,
the
he's a
best
very
the best West Virginian there
non-sensational
is.
candidate. I don't feel like he has much outside of sputter. I don't feel like he has much policy which would really
Have you seen his district?
invigor. I live in it.
New Vupris is more successful and prosperous than ever under his senatorial.
I will say he does have a very strong Senate record, especially with things like district policy. But I think the thing that we should not be looking at is the thing is, when we try to look for the most exciting and the most groundbreaking candidates, they're always also going to be the most controversial candidates. and will probably get the least done because they won't be able to walk across the aisle. For example, when we had, for example, Alligate is a good example. Everyone knows Alligate's name, and Alligate is probably one of the more fervent people when it comes to political parties. He's very, very against like NVP and stuff, and he's loud about that, and he has a lot of support on one side, but Alligate really does struggle to get any bills passed because nobody works bipartisanly with him. So
And
when
just-
it comes,
Mhm.
so I was just gonna say, when it comes to like, you want the exciting candidate who's really pushing things in one direction. The issue is with the Senate, especially a Senate so small, we don't have like 100 congressmen. We have 15, and you really do have to be able to reach across the aisle, especially when we require more than a simple majority to pass bills.
And sadly, it is in the Senate. It has gotten to the point now where people are voting purely based on their party. And for example, if you look, you will see that people have, for example, people in the Dolphin Party have completely ignored Jacob on their vote. They have not put him as their fourth choice, even though generally they're expected to put someone for each choice.
I mean, if
But-
I could interject, the same thing has happened with Shub.
I
A
know,
couple
but
of
that
times.
only happened because they started doing that, and then
don't-
it only
But
escalated
I
from
mean,
there.
if
but I don't-
someone starts doing things, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to act the
Also,
same way in
it
retaliation.
it was the only way for the new Vooperia party to counteract what they were doing.
I
Which
mean,
was,
what they were
Well,
doing
I-
doesn't even affect anything. Like there aren't that
I-
many rounds. There's only 4 rounds.
I
So.
don't support, in the end, I don't support anyone from the NVP who did that, and I actually condemn it. I think it's childish and immature, but I definitely think when the Dolphin Party pulls these stunts, I think that the voters should see it's a stunt. Like,
exactly.
I will still recognize that Shub is a candidate, even if I don't support him over Jacob. I think that not recognizing, especially considering the case that just went through the Supreme Court, where they said, well, Pope, you have to recognize the Supreme Court's outcomes. Well, the entire Dolphin Party basically just said they don't recognize the Supreme Court and they're not putting the name on the ballot, which is actually the exact same thing Pope was accused of doing and the reason
Yeah.
he was barred from running. So if people are going to complain about Pope, they have to be able to look at themselves and say, well, the Supreme Court said Jacob can run. We have to respect that decision if we don't like it.
agree.
Unfortunately, it's got to go both ways. And obviously, what Pope did was wrong. But at the
yeah.
same time, I think it's just as bad for other people to do similar shenanigans. The
Yeah.
Supreme Court's rulings are final. We aren't allowed to interfere with them, and we have to respect them.
Well, I
I agree
completely
completely.
agree.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree with you as well. I just
So
yeah.
I
I've
just
never
Coca,
voiced any.
I'd like Coca.
Okay.
Go ahead.
so I think Super Jacob is a alright PM, and I've worked with him before on ministerial bills like the DAO, the Department of Labor.
Mhm.
But I just feel like he needs to get a little bit more experience in the Senate. He's only been in this for one term, and I think that's alright. And I just want him to work to work a little bit with him, and I think he'll be a pretty alright candidate. Like I do actually agree, but I just feel like it's been going a little bit partisan. I cannot partisanship. Okay.
Partisan.
Partisan, yeah. I understand what you mean.
Anyways,
Cheap
yeah,
shot.
What I
I think we can all recognize.
Oh well.
I think
Who
we
is-
can all recognize the fact that
Right.
there is partisan behavior, and that's how it's always going to be. Unfortunately, the ranked choice voting should help with that a little bit. But in the end, like I said, we only have so many candidates, which means that there's still going to be 2 major political parties. Unless we had like thousands of active people in the government, this issue is going to continue coming up. And unfortunately, another one of the issues we have is that things that happened in the past, we have a reluctance to get over them, and we
Yeah.
have very narrow vision, and we don't reflect upon the things that we've done in the past, and so it becomes very finger pointy. And in my opinion, we really do have to get past things that have happened in the past if we want to move forward as a nation.
I agree.
Shady things have happened in probably every senator's term from
Oh,
the
yeah.
old government, and there's a reason we reset. And the reason we reset is that we're trying to put that stuff behind us, and we're trying to find, the future where we can work together across the aisle.
Oh.
Now, unfortunately, right now what we're seeing is I do see some branching across the aisle, but one of the things that is unfortunate when it comes to like ranked choice is we are going to see people purposefully putting other people at the bottom of the ballot, not based on their qualifications, but based on the fact that we just don't want them to win. And I will say that everyone's going to do this because it is a legitimate tactic. And the only solution to this is to just we have to work between the parties more. We really do. We have to make it less of a hate relationship.
Agree completely. That is a very good point. Is things are becoming way too partisan, and I think that it's important that we all unite and
Yeah,
we all
talking about
find our unity and find our similarities rather than our divisions.
talking about the future. What would be ideas to make the Senate and actually like the whole role play less gamey?
Well, I think that it's highly important that we work together rather than, for example, bills. Some of the bills that are being passed are written by only one party and only one person, or they're hoarding it to themselves so that they can claim all of the credit for a bill. I think that it's fair and important that we include all senators to have the ability to speak their thoughts on a bill and they are able to debate it properly without the party
well,
just.
not
Well, that's
just-
why bills should just be shared, like at least as
Yeah.
a comment in
Yes, I agree.
Senate
Commenting
private.
would make sense.
Yeah.
But I just want to add to that. When you said like the Senate's too gamey, I would like to say that it is kind of designed to be a game.
Yeah.
The issue isn't with it being gamey, because that's why we have an economy in Nerdcraft. I mean, we can't get much more gamey than that. The issue is that people take it personally. And people use personal attacks and stuff in the middle of their political mongering. And it's like, people need to learn that someone attacking your policy or someone saying that they won't vote for you, it's not personal, it's politics.
Most
That's all
definitely. I
it
mean,
is.
like for example, Pope, you're an outstanding guy.
Yeah.
However, I don't agree with you politically.
Yeah,
At
of
least
course.
in
We have our
the
differences
scope
and
of our Senate.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with how that is put together, at least on your end. However, like outside of the role play, I think you're a good guy. I have no problems with you outside of the role play.
Yeah.
I just I think that's a very big distinction that we need to make sure that we're making when it comes to this.
I agree completely. That makes total sense. Would anybody else like to comment on that?
To talk about how like I actually kind of disagree that party supporting those. Like 2 out of the 5 bills or 4 bills
Coco, it's a little hard to hear you.
Yeah,
were
your microphone's a bit covered.
were with other people,
There you go.
and I was working, and one with Snob and the other one with Super Jacob.
That's
And
great. That is an example of the best in our Senate. That is an example of people working together to make a bill. So I congratulate you on that. Good job.
I think we need, because parties, what's happening in the most time is that parties are used to share ideas, to share common thoughts, and the reason that groups work together, like parties work together on bills, is because they share common ideas. But I think a lot of people share common ideas, and it isn't just only the one party. And like Senate private can be used more for that, but just more collaboration is needed.
Agree. And I think we should have a place where senators can discuss their bills and almost a debate. I mean, that is kind of what Senate private is and what Senate discussion is, but we need to have it more where there is a debate period where people can edit and change their bills before people actually begin to vote on it.
So,
So,
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I don't remember, but there was a bill that it was called like the Transparency Act or whatever, and it would have made all the Senate channels publicly viewable. Was that ever passed?
I don't believe it was.
I don't. Yeah.
pretty
However,
sure-
I agree with the premise of it.
I mean, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
the basic premise of it, but like
But-
Senate private chat should still like exist, at least Senate private, because it's better to be able to share your edit links and your comment links with the senators who are meant to be commenting and editing it, not like
Mhm.
everyone
Wait,
who
but
can make jokes on it.
the thing I'm trying to say here is that we do need a channel where only the Senate can talk. I 100% agree with that. But I think that do we know who proposed that bill? Because I'd like to give
Do you
them
want
a
me to look? I can look right now.
You can go right ahead, but I want to give them a pat on the back. I don't care who wrote it, because that bill would have solved a lot of our problems, especially when it comes to drama. If the public was actually able to see what's happening in the government, it would make them much more informed voters when it comes to choosing their
Oh.
political
I believe
choices.
it was me and Coolio who wrote it. It's called the Journalist Transparency Act, and the whole point of it is to allow them to see and join the Senate voice chats. Obviously, they wouldn't be able to talk, but they would be able to join and record data. That it was written by me and
I
Coolio.
don't actually think.
By the name of it, is it just for journalists, or was it an actual like wholly?
I will read it across.
transparent?
The summary was, this bill is to give news corporations with press passes the ability to be able to access the Senate voice chat. Access requirements in order
I don't
to.
think the Senate
Yeah.
bill was
I
ever
think
written.
there was another bill that was slightly like more general than that.
Yeah, I feel like
haven't found anything else.
that one might have been old Senate actually. I feel like
No,
we had
this is-
some
this
Transparency
is-
Act in old
This
Senate.
is recent. This was
But
August
anyways,
17th.
I want to say that I think one of the ways to get past this partisanship, because right now what happens is something dramatic happens in the Senate, and then what happens is senators run to general chat as quickly as possible to try to paint a narrative. And like, this is not
Yeah.
how our voters should be getting their information. Any voter should be able to look into Senate Private and see what's being said there and make decisions for themselves.
Mhm.
Or even if we wanted to do it with the press, like that's not a terrible idea either. Just the issue is going to
It
be
would
that.
also help revive
Yeah.
the dying journalist industry. Hopefully.
But we need accountability for
Mhm.
government actions, and I think that is a great step forward. So whichever candidate, if we had the candidates here right now, I'd ask them to commit to that, because I
Yeah.
think that is an important step forward. I think that's something that pretty much
Mhm.
everyone can get behind.
Spike
Um,
Viper PM debate when?
Then
I mean,
wants to
I'm
build competition.
so given that I unfortunately wasn't able to win my own personal district election, I've taken the time to start working on a bit of a proposal draft for a bit, certain key areas of our government which really could use some looking at by our Senate. And hopefully, if the time comes next election season and I do win, the hope is that using that manifesto, we could start to make a nonpartisan effort towards reforming our government and committing more to the promises made within our Constitution, especially when it comes to protecting the individual liberties of our citizens and ensuring that we are a government representative of the people, made up of the people that we are representing, and not some separate higher class of people that rule down upon our citizens. We're supposed to be a representative government.
I agree
Yeah.
completely. I would just like to say, we will be back after a short break. But thank you for watching SVMP. This has been the live political coverage. We'll be back after a short break.
all right.
ダメだねダメよダメなのよあんたが好きで好きすぎてどれだけ強いを避けても歪まない思い出が別れた
Love you just won't sit in. Gonna make you cry. Say goodbye.
Long ago, there was no one. Then one day Wizard woke up at 3 in the afternoon. He saw the chaos and went back to bed. So now me and my people must work together to bring him back. He may seem lazy and may lack talent. So if you want someone who will spark joy. Long ago, there was no one. Then one day Wizard woke up at 3 in the afternoon. He saw the chaos and went back to bed. So now me and my people must work together to bring him back. He may seem lazy and may lack talent. So if you want someone who will spark joy and bring maybe freedom, vote Wizard. He doesn't do much. This ad was paid by Wizard's fan group.
ダメだねダメよダメなのよあんたが好きで好きすぎてどれだけ強いを避けても歪めない思い出がバカみたい
Love you just won't fit in. Gonna make you cry. Say goodbye.
Oh, wait. Oh.
What? Oh, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to SVMP. I'm your host, Pope Francis. Today we have live election coverage with an interview with Super Jacob. Super Jacob?
Hello?
Hello. So we will be having what will be happening is that all of us, the moderators, will be asking you questions one by one, and we'll go from right to left. So starting with Etho, would you like to ask the candidate a question?
Yeah, sure. Now, Jacob, prior to our election that we had in New Vooperia, we had a debate, and one of the main concerns that I saw a lot of the citizens of New Vooperia saying is that the debate sounded very one-sided, and following your election, one of the main things that you've proposed was the making of a district senate, more local creation, a creation of a more local government in order to handle more local matters, of which I'm currently the proposed leader of. However, this idea comes after an idea to maybe try to implement some ideas that other people, which in this case would be myself, wanted to implement within the district. Is there anything that you've really proposed that has been mainly your idea that you believe is something that the voters should be keeping an eye out for when trying to look to you as a potential prime minister candidate within the Senate?
Well, the Department of Labor was mainly my idea with
Mhm.
Makoka's help, and the raising of the salaries in Nordcraft too. That was
Mhm.
also my idea,
Mhm.
and I suppose that's it, pretty much.
Mhm. Etho, your question was very long. Could you shorten it possibly for him to?
But I mean, I have another question which is a bit more concise.
Could you wait till we go around again, please?
Yeah, no, you
Thank
go.
you.
Yeah.
All right. Next will be Spike. Spike, do you have any questions for the candidate?
All right, so this one's a little bit more personal. I'm thinking Jacob probably he wasn't expecting to be in this position, especially so soon. Obviously, this election cycle, some of our candidates have had literally months to plan ahead and to
Yeah.
get their voters ready, to get backdoor deals with senators and to ensure that they have support. Jacob is walking into this. He's got his new shoes on, squeaky clean. So, Jacob, I just want to know, how are you feeling about being put in this position? You have the national spotlight on you before you were known for being an inventor, working with Honk on things like payment technology, analytics, Sputter. Obviously, you have a bit of background in economy, but government is definitely new to you. So, how are you making that transition into the government side of things, and how do you
Well,
feel about it?
well, it has been like a bit rough and a bit
Oh God.
stressful because that's just government. It's always drama in Vooperia. Everything you do, everyone comments on and complains about, and complains a lot.
Well, that is the government for you. At least
Yeah.
I'm not. At least I'm not the only one who sees it. Do
Mhm.
you? I'll ask one more slight question because that was kind of short. Do you have? What is your main goal with your candidacy? What's something that you want to see changed in our country?
Mhm.
I wanted to drastically increase our activity on Northern Craft and definitely fix the economy. It's completely broken right
Yeah.
now.
All right. Actually, I'd ask everyone here, all of our contributors, let's take a roll call one at a time. I think it would be good to get all of our opinions on the economy because that's
Oh.
basically the lifeblood of Vooperia.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
Yeah.
So I think we then we should start with Coca since Etho went last. So Coca, if you want to start, you're welcome to.
I think the bill I have been working with Mr. Super Jacob called DAO, the Department of Labor Act. I think it's very important. We would allow new players to sell resources to us, and then we will be able to hire the workers and the designers to design monuments, parks, decoration, buildings, and I think it's going to be very helpful for new people to get the money they need to buy land.
Mhm. That makes total sense. Is that the end of your end of your?
Yeah.
Okay. LJ, you may go.
Okay, well, I mean, on the economy in general, it's a fairly large system, but I don't know, it's pretty much incredibly stagnant right now.
Yeah.
There's not much going on, even with the fairly decent activity on Nerdcraft. It's just like, I don't know, no one's really buying anything and no one's really selling anything,
Yeah.
at least as far as I can see. So, I don't know. The problem is questioning on how we're gonna solve that.
Yeah.
Like
And
that's yeah.
I think one of the major ways we can do it is by implementing a XP benefit for people who are on Nerdcraft. For example, if you are selling things and buying things, when someone buys your sales or you buy or sell a product, you get a slight XP bonus. So it actually encourages people to use the economy.
That
Seems a
can
bit
be
disgusting.
scammed. That can be abused quite heavily.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean it would change based on the price of the item.
yeah, but
Well,
the
yeah,
issue
but
is you
someone
could
could
sell
trade back and
items to
forth.
yourself.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, you could
But
just trade
obviously
back
there
and
would be
forth.
something we'd have to figure out, but I think that's something that could.
I will say, I think more important than an XP thing like that is that from the very beginning, Nerdcraft was designed to have an XP bonus for being active on it. Like, for each minute you were on Nerdcraft, you'd get like 1 XP, which is quite substantial. That's the
Oh, God.
equivalent. That's about the equivalent of if you were talking constantly. So if we created some sort of XP benefit to being on Nerdcraft, we would see the people who play Nerdcraft gaining money, rank, valor, glory, and it would it would increase their likelihood to play because obviously you get the increased UBI, you get the benefit of having a higher rank. It helps you out in politics, and obviously
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe why are you on non-AFK?
Yeah, because there is an AFK detector thing in the.
Yeah, so if we could somehow find a way to code that into this program, so if you go AFK, you will no longer. Oh,
Oh
Not
yeah,
that
and
hard
the
to
server will
implement.
automatically kick you after 5 minutes of being AFK anyways.
yeah.
I mean, obviously there's a way to get around that, but there's ways to game every system. For example, there was the guy who got millions from DMing Vooperia. Like, someone will always find a bug, but we don't ruin it for everyone because of the exception. We make it better for most people, and then we find the people who abuse the system.
Mm-hmm. That makes total sense. Etho, would you like to speak on the subject?
Yeah, sure. So when it really comes to how we're looking at our economy, LJ was right. We definitely have issues when it comes to having an engaged market. Really, what I think is the issue is that a lot of our sales that are going on right now are very small scale things, like people buying materials from other people is probably the main transaction type that I'm seeing, which isn't bad. People are still making money, but I don't think that it's nearly on as large of a scale that we would want to be aiming for, especially for companies that make much different types of content, like SVNP Plus,
Mm-hmm.
and other companies that aren't necessarily just selling these sorts of resources. Obviously, all of these are businesses which are providing product, but we need to ensure that we have a diverse set of products and to have a diverse economy. A more diverse economy will overall be beneficial. I mean,
My
I've
goal,
seen all sorts of. Oh, I'm
my
sorry.
goal, you're good. My goal mainly is to increase the wealth of ordinary Vooperians as well as increase the economy, because when people have more money and there is more products, people will spend their money on those products.
So
Yeah, I mean,
I'm actually gonna say that
Mhm.
one of the things when it comes to raising Pope, I'll say that people get a little bit nervous when you say things like raise the money of lower people, because one of the biggest things that we're fighting against right now is
Mhm.
latent money. Accounts which are getting hundreds of thousands of credits,
Very
but they're
true.
inactive and not spending it. So one of the things I actually talked to Jacob in the past about, and something that's very popular, is the idea of an inactivity tax.
I agree completely. That idea makes perfect sense, and I think that we should definitely implement that.
Because an inactivity tax will raise the earnings for every active person, and it'll
Yeah.
only affect people who have been inactive for about a month. So that was one of the things that Jacob actually brought up to me, and I am 100% for. We will have to make changes to the programming, obviously. But another thing I talked to him about was the something I mentioned in the past, but I completely forgot about, is the trading system. The ability to do things like trade companies.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
and buy
Trade
companies as well.
copyright.
And talk
You
Trade
should also be able to buy
patents.
companies
Interesting.
too.
and to do talk splits too. That's
Yeah.
another one we need.
Now, you mentioned that inactivity tax. I remember during the initial, back when it was the vice emperor elections, there was a bill proposed. I know that it wasn't the full, the entirety of the bill, but I remember that we were speaking about, especially when it comes to how we're handling the economy and people who are inactive. Back during the time in which I was campaigning, we were proposing a set of legislation that dealt with people who were inactive on the server. That I remember the main goal of it was to extend to voting rights, but we also had included some thoughts on how we deal with people who use certain accounts as kind of safe houses, almost like an offshore banking account for their money. And I'm definitely all in favor of that idea, and I'm glad to see that people like Jacob are now reproposing that idea, and it definitely has a better chance of success now that we're trying to do this in a nonpartisan, across the aisle sort of way.
And
So
I think
I will say 100%. I am aware of your bill. I actually did not support it, but it was because of a technical reason, not like the idea. The technical issue with the proposal that hit the Senate was that it worked on a percentage base. And the issue with using a percentage base with a decreasing number is that we will get into insanely small fractions and things, and it'll cause money to disappear. So I think the better approach would be that, much like in nation states, if you aren't active on your account in a long time, you lose your country. I believe we may want to look at a system where if your account goes over like 1 month, 2 months old, all of your money gets transferred to the government.
I like
what's
that.
great about that, or we could do it so it forces people to put their money in a bank so that it increases, the banking sector of the economy. Because if people are afraid that they're going to lose their money from being inactive, if they can place it in a bank,
Well, yeah, and
it'll
then
sit
that
and grow. You know
that
what I
does
mean?
actually give banks a legitimate use.
Yeah,
and
and-
when the banks gain the money, they can actually reinvest it. So I see no
Exactly.
problem with that.
And I think it's important that we don't just steal the money and give it back to the government. We reintroduce it into the economy, like what
Well, it
I
would
said.
probably go into like UBI or something.
We could probably run it through
Yeah,
UBI.
it would go into UBI.
The
I'm
only
just saying.
government expense right now is UBI. And actually, there's some numbers that are very impressive, which I'd like to bring up from the database. Just because people are looking at Nerdcraft and they're going, "Oh my god, it's dead." But I would like to say, actually, right now we have like 20 people on, which not the greatest, but it's something. But some of the numbers we have is the direct sales, so property sales in Nerdcraft have generated for the government 9 million credits.
You're
Damn.
serious? That's a lot of money.
9 million credits have
That's
went.
very impressive.
So that means about 8 million credits have went into the UBI from Nerdcraft, which is more. That's more than even when we were just printing money. This is massive scale. Corporate tax. We have inserted, one moment, 2.2 million credits into the economy through the corporate tax on Nerdcraft.
That's amazing.
Payroll tax is coming out at about 30,000. Obviously, payroll jobs, that is something that needs to be fixed. We need, like Jacob's labor laws, that needs to be done. We need the employment system to be used more. But then if we look at the stock system overhaul, the amount of money that's generated for the economy.
It's
Capital-
absolutely outstanding. It's absolutely extraordinary.
Extraordinary.
Outstraordinary.
Anyways,
One of my main
capital
concerns-
gains has generated 360,000 credits, and sales tax through Nerdcraft has generated 200,000 credits. So obviously, compared to the land, those numbers sound small. But altogether, since the passing of the new stock market in Nerdcraft, we have gotten 10 million credits to transfer through the economy. And not just that, but it gets even more insane because that's ignoring every other source of money moving. That's just taxes. The total volume of, I believe it's been months, but it hasn't been like a year. So since the last time the database was cleared, we have had a trade volume in the economy of 150 million credits. 150 million. That's more than the entire economy 3 times over.
Wow.
There is a lot of money moving, and even if we don't completely see it happening, and if we feel like the government and the economy is stagnating, there is still money moving behind the scenes. It's just, we don't see it.
And that's good, but the issue that we're facing right now, I feel like, is like, say for example, there's one thing that I think that certain people are concerned about, Once we did the stock overhaul, definitely the new system is it's definitely been interesting to see that implemented. But I feel like what definitely got eliminated that we should aim to start bringing back is bringing more companies towards public trading. Currently, there aren't many investment options in terms of what you can invest in the stock exchange, which we could definitely, there's systems to put it in place to add more IPOs. We have the Ministry of Finance, which is in charge of that, but I don't feel like there's nearly enough people that have their companies publicly traded, and we definitely need to make an incentive to do that.
I agree
No,
completely.
yeah, I completely agree. One of the issues going onto a market-based stock market system instead of the kind of fake system we were using before is that the system only really works well if there's a lot of volume. So that means people trading the same stock. The issue with adding hundreds of stocks like we had before is it makes the chances of multiple people trading one stock go to pretty much zero. And this wraps back around to the activity problem. If we can get more active users and more active stock users, we can safely IPO more stocks. And that activity thing is a huge question. How do we create more activity, especially in the Discord? Now, the Discord's numbers are going up, and actually the channel's numbers are going up. So right now, we are actually looking at a green trajectory, and if we can continue in this direction, possibly we can push things like the stock market to a new level. But obviously, whatever the prime minister, whoever they are, one of the things that they're going to have to be aware of is we are going into green territory. It's been over a year since the channel and the Discord has been in green territory.
Could I make a statement quickly? Vikos has offered to join in this conversation as he is the Minister of Finance. So I'm going to let him come and speak about that. So Vikos, you may speak whenever.
Oh, hi.
Pretty sure.
Hello.
So, I've been watching you, and you were talking about a new stock and racing new stocks. The current problem with that is there are not enough companies right now. Like, I only get 3 or 4 requisitions for stock, and all of those companies were either dead or were like under 40,000 credits in total volume. So there is not really much people wanting to have their own stock to be implemented on the site. So that's the biggest problem right now with the stocks.
No, yeah, that's definitely a major part of it. Yeah, I know. When it comes to it, we do have a company issue, and one of the issues is that while it's very easy for someone like Honk or Jacob, who has a lot of technical skill, to use the API to create a product, there isn't really too many options other than Nerdcraft for people who want to make a soft company that doesn't like work super hard and make these crazy ideas. So one of the things, especially with the trading system, is that I personally have been trying to come up with ideas for people to be able to do things like making trades and stuff. And aside from me literally making an entire game and like connecting the credit system to it and making it free for all Vooperians, it's very challenging. How do we make products? How do we make value in a system that obviously there's no obvious answers? And things like advertising were big ones. Jacob was actually working with Honk on an advertising system that would count the amount of views your ads got and then use that to automatically pay out. But obviously, anything related to Honk is heavily delayed right now.
But that's still being worked on. I'm still working on that. It's in beta right now.
So things like that, but those are all technical. So the thing is, we have to find ways to get the common average Joe a job, and that's challenging how do we do that? Does anyone have an idea? The trading system is a good start. Being able to like get Minecraft items and put it into the website and trade it. So then if you don't have Minecraft, you can still trade. But that's only the start, because there needs to be an actual kind of work you can do. What is the work? What can we, you
I would
know?
invite.
Can I
Yeah.
speak
I
about?
would. Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Coca.
Actually, before we go on, Etha, you need to let Vikos into the recording studio.
I got it.
Yeah,
I got it.
You got him?
Yeah.
Great. You have to stand behind one of us.
So, I have 2 ideas.
Everybody scoot over to the right.
Here, I'll just stand more by the
Everybody
window.
Scoot over.
Everyone just move back over to the window.
There
Get a
you
little
go.
more space that way.
Yeah,
So
give
God.
Vikos a little bit space.
I have
Go
2
ahead.
basic
Beautiful city.
ideas.
I know, right?
Or 3 about how to make the stock market more interesting for new players, and that is making it, and that is dividends and giving people and giving people more freelance jobs, which is what the DOL is, the Department of Labor, and also making companies more democratic using stock.
That makes sense.
So basically, what will happen is that the stocks you have in a company can give you the right to say of the company's actions.
That makes sense.
Yeah, stock voting rights are something that is actually planned to be added into the system. Unfortunately, obviously, I've had some personal drama, so I haven't been able to add things in a long time. I've been fixing major bugs. I've been fixing major issues on Nerdcraft, but tomorrow I should actually get my internet situation settled, and that should help start getting things moving. But one of the things that would be very helpful to me in a prime minister is I need someone who can offload some of my work, and one of the big things is priorities. It's hard for me when there's so many people asking for so many things to figure out priorities. So I'm looking for a prime minister who can make a list, say these are the most pressing matters to the Senate and the people, and then I will try to get those done one at a time. And
sadly, I wish I could have been that, but obviously with the latest Supreme Court case, I was barred from running, which with reason. But I think that it's important that Jacob can definitely fit that position. So, there's a lot of people right here right now. If anybody would like to comment on anything, just.
We have another candidate in the chat.
Yeah, we have Sir. Let me just.
Oh yeah, I didn't see that Search was here.
I think we should continue with the questioning the candidates. So earlier we had Spiko, and I think LJ, it's fair for you to choose one of the 2 candidates and ask a question.
Oh, and Serge is gone.
And
I mean, I still, yeah. I mean, I guess I'll ask Jacob a question. Yeah. So you said, a while ago that you want to help fix the economy, and I understand that. Do you have any set in stone policy ideas for that, or are you planning on trying to figure that out later? It really doesn't matter what the answer is. I'm just wondering.
Well, with the DAW, with the Department of Labor is going to be a huge part of that. I mean, another part is trying to increase the stock market activity by having like dividends and stock splits, and like Spike said, trade in Minecraft resources will probably help a lot. And also maybe increasing UBI a bit too.
One thing that I also think is important is making things more accessible. Unfortunately, one of my favorite projects, Vooperia, has kind of fallen from grace recently. But one of the things that they gave me a lot of hope in was that they were teaching people how to use the stock market and stuff. So I think something like public education for things like the economy might want to be on the plate. But one of the things that Jacob has been doing, and I've been watching, he hasn't really mentioned it though, is he has been making a Vooperian stock index. Or at least I believe that was Jacob.
Yeah.
Yes, he's also making a search engine.
So that's the thing. Things like that, I think, make things more accessible, and I think the government needs to look into it.
And I also think that it's unfair that we continually attack him for having monopoly when he's literally the one who's being the most
Yeah,
active.
no, I don't think Jacob has a monopoly.
I think
he
our
just
only points
works
on
too
Monopoly
much.
earlier were that it was naturally formed because no one else wants to compete, or no one else is competing because
Yeah.
Okay, like I'm not saying monopoly in a negative connotation. It's more just stating the fact that there is nobody else competing against him right now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Let's get back on topic. I'm gonna have let's have Coca ask Jacob a question. Jacob, you have 1 minute to respond, and Coca can ask.
I was not ready. But who do you think would be a good person for the Department of Labor?
Well, it'll be someone active who who is also on Nordumcraft like nearly 24/7. I haven't really seen anyone with that. No one is really that active on Nordcraft, and that's what you need to be able to give people jobs, collect make payments and stuff.
Mm-hmm. But is there anybody who you currently have in mind? I guess was his question.
No one fits out.
That makes sense. Spike, would you like to ask him a question?
Yeah, so one of the things that we are actually currently dealing with, and something that I have been watching from the side, I haven't acted on it at all because, I don't like drama, is we actually, in this election, I don't think anyone can really reject the fact that we are dealing with foreign interference.
I agree.
I was joking about it earlier, but it is true. We do have some actors who are taking part in even this live stream and who are supporting candidates and are telling people who to support while not actually being a part of the community, including people like Mr. Actually, I won't say the name. we have multiple people who have vested interests in causing drama and division in Spook Vooper, and they do succeed in this. And my question is to probably everyone, but obviously Super Jacob as well, because he's running for prime minister. What do we do about foreign interference? People not in Spook Vooper who are trying to pull strings, whether they were banned, left on their own accord, because obviously Spook Vooper needs to be a place where the people have a voice. And if you're not a citizen, then obviously you should not be telling the citizens what to do.
Well, that's very hard to do anything about, because you can't exactly top that in a way.
It's kind of staff matters.
Yeah.
You can't stop someone from talking to another Discord user. You can't stop someone from joining a server.
But I think, Jacob, what he means is that we need to have some way to prevent foreign interference in our elections.
Well, so it's not necessarily about prevention, because obviously I think Jacob is right, and that's kind of why I'm not doing anything. I don't think we really can prevent it. You can't prevent someone from trying to manipulate things, but I wonder if there's a way that we can maybe educate against it, or that we can kind of try to sway the public away from allowing the foreign interference. The answer may be there's just no way to do it. It may be that we just deal with it, but I'm curious on your thoughts, because I really don't know what the solution is.
Before he responds, I think it's also important that the Vooperian people see that we may be having a candidate who supports these foreign interference, and I think that it's important that we remember that Vooperian citizens think about their choice before voting for their senator. But you can answer the question now, Jacob.
I think Spuddle's gonna help a bit with that. Because you can read everything your candidate, or every candidate says.
Yeah.
Because it helps a bit with that. And another thing we can do is have education. Just educate people about candidates and stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I kind of agree.
Yeah. So that's one of the things with the transparency. I don't think you can teach people personally, but I think we can make things open so that we can see. And not only that, but I think if we take some notes from, for example, the real world, you're required to disclose who's paying for your campaign, what companies are supporting you, which people are making your campaign material. So like things like that would probably help a little bit, because then people can see
Yeah.
at least if we have an ad that's like Pope Francis for PM, and then we should be able to ask who paid to get that made, who made it.
FYI,
Yeah.
I did add, if you look on my political ads, like my posters, you'll see at the bottom it says this was paid for by the Pope for PM Foundation.
Well, there
sponsored
needed
by
to
the
be
new
some
Vooperia
federal
party.
law.
So if
maybe
you read it,
we make it federal law that foundations. Maybe we make it federal law that foundations for campaigns have to make a sheet that lists all of the campaign contributors. Right. So all the contributors to the campaign,
or people who
and
pay
that
and donate.
how much money they've paid for the campaign and how much money they've taken in for the campaign, and not even so that they can be like legally like attacked for it, but just so that the voters can see. Like, I should be able to see if someone from another community is creating the attack ads for a candidate. That is eye-opening, and I should be aware.
And at the bottom of the video, there should be credits to the producer and the people, so that we can know who made the video as well.
Yes.
I think that it's important that the government has press conferences as well.
I think government press conferences are something that should have started when Nerdcraft was released, and we just got a little bit lazy.
The problem like with that is that there's no room in the entire government building for a space to put that. I wanted, before Nerdcraft started, I was going to add that, but then it became a little late. But yeah. I agree. Yeah. Yeah. This was. We don't make people watch TV, but
you are required to watch.
You are required to watch SBMP, or you will die and your family will starve.
Like this certainly do help, because things like these live streams, even if we only have 14 people watching and 8 of them are us.
Yeah, true.
I just realized then it's at least something. But I definitely do agree that we have to work on expanding this, maybe making government official live streams an official government channel.
This is something that I was going to do as Prime Minister. I was going to give the Senate some more official in terms of how it runs. I was creating a new format,
already a bill
I know that I know that Jacob as Prime Minister will do those things and work with me and work with the everybody in the Senate and the people.
I forget who it was. Someone proposed something like V-SPAN or something like that.
Yes, it was Coolio. It was Coolio.
Yeah. Sadly, yeah.
But yeah, if there was any like official government broadcasting, that would obviously be through like a channel I own. But because that's how we would get people to watch it.
I have a question for Jacob that's highly relevant. Earlier, I heard you discussing about having a potential imperial speaker to replace the Prime Minister's position as the Speaker of the Senate. Could you go into more detail on that policy?
Well, because right now, Prime Minister is more of an Senate speaker. He or she speaks is basically a Senate speaker or a House speaker. Speaker, and I wanted to separate them.
I agree.
So like you can have a vice emperor of sorts and an imperial speaker, and then be separate roles, separate elections, that kind of stuff.
But I think that we can leave the name for Prime Minister, and stuff like that. I think it's important that
many people does not support giving the Prime Minister any power.
I think the Prime Minister should have some control at least over the ministries, because they are the Prime Minister. They should be able to enforce policies within the districts, within the ministries.
And everyone voted against it. No one wants the Prime Minister
because
to be
nobody
more
at the time people were afraid that.
Unfortunately, the thing is that people aren't going to vote for powers for the Prime Minister until the Prime Minister they want is in the office.
I think it's more that the veto power thing.
This
Yeah,
is
that's
one
my
of those
perspective.
very concerned.
biased things, and something we're going to have to work past. And that's why I keep saying we definitely do need a prime minister who people aren't afraid of, who doesn't have any enemies right now in the Senate, and who can work across the aisle. Because obviously, the first prime minister is going to be helping define what the prime minister is. And if the Senate blocks any attempt to give them any powers, the prime minister is going to end up just being a useless mouthpiece.
Exactly. And that's why I think it's important that we stop like having the hypocritical perspective of, oh, I'm not going to vote for this because it's not my prime minister. We need to be open to
I don't know.
letting other people run.
Yeah,
that are-
Let's talk about this.
I don't know. Yeah, Coca, you talk
I
about
would
it.
For
find it
example,
very. If anyone who voted previously against the bill that gave up veto powers and then became prime minister and then voted for it, I would try to impeach them. I find it very offending.
Yeah,
Well,
I'd also
everyone
like to point
voted
out
against
that.
that bill.
Yeah. I'd also like to point
Everyone
out that bill, at least in my eyes, had a couple of problems, especially with the veto power that it was granted. Like, I understand that it was able to be reversed. It seems like too much power to give to someone who wasn't actually elected, like, who was
I'm
only
actually
indirectly
going to,
elected.
this is going to sound hypocritical, but I actually agree. I think my position with the veto power, I think it makes sense because 98% of the time I personally have to implement changes. So like my idea with the veto was like, oh, someone signs a thing that says that we need to like add 8 new systems to the website. I can be like, no, I'm not doing that because
I mean, logistically that would make sense for some stuff, but then there's a point where it doesn't necessarily extend to something that isn't physically possible for you to do in terms of code, but rather something.
I'd say that I've used the veto power very sparingly. I can't even
Yeah,
remember
I
the
have
last
not.
time I used it.
You used, I do remember, but I can only remember one time that you've used it in this entire, or at least 2 times that you've used this in this entire
Yeah.
Senate session. So I don't think you're using it much.
Even when it came to things like rewriting bills that I had worked on, I didn't even veto those because like the only things I'll veto is things that clearly are either ridiculous, hurt the community, complete bias. I mean, I can't even remember the last time I used it. Honestly, me vetoing something is very rare. In the last Senate, it was more common. But in the newer Senate, I've been a little bit more careful with that use because whenever I use it, people get up in arms. So
yeah, I mean, I think a major part of the outrage on the old of the veto that you had or that you have in the new Senate is really how much you used it in the old Senate. Like, it wasn't incredible amounts, but I'm assuming that people were just expecting you to do the same amount.
Well, in the old Senate, there was a change made. So, like in the old Senate, I used it more often because the veto wasn't a 100% headshot. It was more of a I could veto and then people could unveto it. So instead, I realized that's an issue because if there's something really, really, really stupid or really, really, really challenging to implement, it shouldn't matter if the entire Senate wants it. I should still be able to say no. So I kind of reversed it. So now it's like I rarely use it, but if I veto something, it is final. So
talk about this. Your previous the veto on the inactivity tax and how it had a percentage. I think it should be a little bit more like patents, where you can modify the bill, and like you can say, and then you can say, "All right, that's good," and then you can carry on.
I don't know, because then we're going to run into issues where people are going to just accuse me of rewriting bills to benefit myself. I don't really want to go in that direction. I'd rather just say no, that bill won't work as is and let you guys do it, because I don't want to be taking control. I just want to be blocking trash. It's more, I don't want to be. One of the things I've been trying to stay away from is I've been trying to stay away from being a legislator. I do vote, but I don't really. I work with people on bills. The last major thing I wrote was the new Vooperian tax plan, and that was a very, very, very thorough proposal. It was B, super important to the extension of the government. If we hadn't passed that, we'd probably be dead by now.
Yeah.
And C, nobody had a similar proposal, so I took it upon myself. But even then, I worked with pretty much every single senator on that, including Shub, to come up with the idea, which would basically completely rewrite the economy. But I don't really step in with legislation unless it's something super important like that.
Or
Unless
like
it's
an emergency powers or something that is needed for the whole community, like urgently.
Yeah. So either that or things relating to Nerdcraft, because Nerdcraft isn't like the government.